Climate change is dull. What do you think about when you think of climate change? Do you think about the average temperatures, the statistics that are currently available about certain climates? Do you think about the people on TV telling you about climate change, about the impact it's had? Do you think about certain experts, maybe Bill McKibben or Tim DeChristopher? Maybe you think about climate activists or about green energy. There's even a slim chance you'll think of the actual science behind it, or a simplification of the actual science at least. This, I'm afraid to say, is fairly dull. You see, the actual science relies on huge swaths of data, on countless studies and reviews. It relies on scientists who spent their entire lives working on this, and who have spent so many hours, so many days, working to fill any gaps in the theory that is climate change. And I could argue with this science with you, and possibly put up a fairly decent fight. But then it would just be dull, and you wouldn't really listen or understand that much of it. And this is a problem. You see, climate change is real, and this is very dangerous. And we need to fight it, and we need to change the argument into things people can't argue with. So, here's some ideas about how we can tackle this. Solar power is awesome. And I mean, just think about this for a second. With solar powers, we're using fairly basic ideas to literally harness the power of the sun. We have a sun that is so many, like thousands of times the size of the USA, of our Earth. And the sun has a core body temperature which is 50,000 times your own. And yet we've tamed it. We use it for the most menial tasks we can think of. And being humans, we can think of some fairly menial tasks to make electricity do. Then there's the mad scientist-like aspect of wind energy. We can literally harness the power of the wind. Imagine, for a second, a mad scientist shouting across the fields that he's managed to harness the power of the wind, that he can show you contraptions which are 80 meters high with blades that move 10 times faster than a human being can run. And he will seem infinitely scary. And yet, this is reality. And we also use rivers, seas, the ocean, the heat from the center of the earth to meet our means. Seriously, if I had lightning, we would have the entirety of the mad scientist collection here. Then there's the alternative benefits. The fact, if we had a vegetarian meal, or we cycled to work once a week, we would be so much healthier. If we stopped using coal, we would have fewer kids with asthma. If we stopped drilling into mountains, we wouldn't have to blast them apart and chemically poison streams. We would have scenery to enjoy if we hadn't cut down sieves of forest. And we would have a more athletic world. We would have such a joyous place that we would save money on healthcare for one thing, but we would just be better as a species. We'd probably be in fewer wars. And I won't say we wouldn't be in any, because that would be to underestimate the war lust of certain nations which shan't be mentioned. But they would have less justification and less inclination. And that has to count for something. We wouldn't be dying at the rate we are. Climate change kills living people. And some of you may think this doesn't concern me, it doesn't really happen in my neighbourhood. But I want you to think of some inspirational people you know, some artists, some songwriters, some musicians, some frisbee players, some storytellers, God forbid even some politicians. And then your family. People are worth fighting for. And we need to get together and fight climate change for that. And finally, we'd be able to see the stars more clearly at night. We could see galaxies were it not for this smog that envelops, engulfs, and suffocates us. In certain places, cars produce exhaust fumes which are cleaner than the air. Without this, we'd be able to see each other and appreciate the world we have and really, really get inspiration from it. We are in a war. Not against the Earth. On that account, the Earth is winning and comfortably. But a way the argument is framed. Climate change is real and we need to act now. Not because anyone says so, or because necessarily because the science points to it. But because life would be amazing if we acted.